For 10,000 years, the spell had refused. It didn't matter who stood before it. Kings crowned by prophecy, archmages who bent storms, or priests who spoke in the voices of gods. The result was always the same. Fire. Not ordinary fire, but something older, something aware. It did not rage. It did not spread wildly. It simply chose. And once it chose you, nothing remained. Not your body, not your magic, not even your name. Entire bloodlines had vanished trying to control it. Cities had burned because a single ruler believed they were worthy. The world learned to fear it, then revere it, then seal it away. They called it the Nameless Flame, because no one had ever survived long enough to give it a name. The ruins where it slept were older than any kingdom, carved into black stone that no tool could mark. The structure stood in the center of a barren valley, where even the wind seemed hesitant to pass. Ancient sigils circled its heart, symbols so old that even the oldest scholars could not decipher them. Every 100 years, the Grand Conclave returned, not out of hope, but obsession. This time, the strongest mage alive had come, Archmage Valerian. He walked through the shattered gates with quiet confidence, his robes shimmering faintly with layers of protective magic. Behind him followed priests, scholars, and nobles, all watching, all waiting, all expecting him to succeed where countless others had failed. "Everything is prepared," the high priest said, his voice low but steady. Valerian nodded. "I've studied every record," he replied. "Every attempt, every failure." "And?" the priest asked. Valerian's lips curved into a faint smile. "They were all wrong." At the center of the ruin lay a circular platform carved with deep, spiraling runes. Even dormant, they pulsed faintly, like a sleeping heartbeat. Valerian stepped into the circle. The moment his foot touched the stone, the air changed. Heavier, thicker, as if the world itself had taken a breath, and was now holding it. "Begin," the high priest commanded. Valerian raised his staff. Light erupted. Pure, radiant magic poured from him, flooding the circle, igniting the ancient sigils one by one. They spun into motion, lifting from the stone, forming a vast, rotating sphere of symbols around him. The ground trembled. The sky darkened. Power surged through the ruins, ancient and immense. And then, something answered. At first, it was only a flicker, a small, dancing spark at the center of the circle. Then another, and another, until they merged into a single flame. It did not behave like fire. It moved too smoothly, too deliberately, like it was watching. A presence filled the chamber. Not loud, not overwhelming, but absolute. Every person present felt it instantly. A crushing awareness that they were being observed by something far beyond them. Judged, measured. Valerian didn't hesitate. "I am Archmage Valerian," he declared, his voice echoing through the chamber. "Bearer of the seventh seal, master of the eastern currents, chosen of—" The flame shifted, and suddenly, his voice faltered. Just for a moment. "You will answer me," Valerian continued, forcing confidence back into his tone. "I command you. Submit." And the flame surged. Not outward, inward. There was no explosion, no scream, no resistance. One moment Valerian stood in the center of the circle, surrounded by brilliant magic. The next, he was gone, erased. The light vanished. The sigils fell. The flame dimmed and then disappeared, as if nothing had happened. Silence swallowed the ruins. No one moved. No one spoke. Even the high priest stood frozen, his face pale. "Another," someone whispered. "Another failure." The conclave slowly began to disperse, some in shock, some in anger, some already arguing over what had gone wrong. It rejected him. Impossible. He was the strongest. Strength has never mattered. It must be a flaw in the ritual. "It's not a ritual," an old scholar muttered. "It's a test." "Enough," the high priest said sharply. The murmurs died. "We seal the ruins again. We will return in another century." That's when the guards arrived, dragging someone. The figure stumbled as they were pulled forward, young, thin, dressed in plain, worn clothes that had no place among mages and nobles. A human. "Who is this?" one of the mages demanded. "A trespasser," a guard replied, "found wandering the outer ruins. He claims he heard something. Another added, said it was calling him. A few mages scoffed. The flame doesn't call. It kills. Execute him and be done with it. But the high priest didn't give the order. Instead, he stepped closer. The human didn't look afraid, bruised, tired, but calm. Too calm. What is your name? The priest asked. The young man lifted his head. Aaron, you understand where you are? The priest continued. Aaron's gaze shifted past him, to the center of the ruin, to the circle, to the faint ember still lingering there, barely visible. Yes, Aaron said quietly. There was something strange in his voice. Not fear, not awe, recognition. The high priest narrowed his eyes. Then you understand what happens to those who step into that circle. Aaron nodded. I think, he said slowly. It's been waiting. A ripple of uneasy laughter spread through the mages. Waiting? For what? For another fool to burn? Aaron didn't answer. Instead, he took a step forward. The guards tightened their grip. Stop him. But the high priest raised a hand. Wait. High priest, this is madness. Let him, the priest said, his voice low. Something in his gaze had changed. Curiosity. Or perhaps doubt. Aaron stepped into the circle. For a moment, nothing happened. The ruins remained still. The air remained quiet. Then, the sigils flickered. A single spark appeared. Then another. The flame returned. Not violently, not suddenly, but slowly, as if waking. It rose before him, shifting, watching, waiting. Every mage in the chamber held their breath. Don't speak, someone whispered. Don't move. It will kill you. Aaron didn't move. He didn't look away. The flame leaned closer, closer, as if listening. Aaron's lips parted, and in a voice barely louder than a breath, he whispered a single word. The world broke. The flame froze. The sigils shattered. The air itself seemed to collapse inward, and for the first time in 10,000 years, the nameless flame did not burn. No one breathed. Not a single soul in the ancient ruin dared to move, because what they had just witnessed was impossible. For 10,000 years, the nameless flame had only done one thing. It destroyed. Kings, prophets, archmages. None had lasted more than a heartbeat before being erased from existence. It did not hesitate. It did not judge slowly. It simply chose. And yet, now it bowed. The massive, shifting inferno lowered itself before a human, before Aaron. A tremor passed through the gathered mages. This is a trick, one of them whispered, though his voice shook. An illusion. It must be. No illusion could withstand that presence, another replied, barely audible. The high priest said nothing. He couldn't, because for the first time in his long life, he did not understand what he was seeing. Aaron stood still at the center of the circle. His chains had fallen loose at some point. No one had noticed when. They now lay broken at his feet, as if they had simply given up holding him. The flame hovered inches from his face, close enough that anyone else would have been consumed instantly. But it did not burn him. It studied him. Then, it spoke, not with sound, not with words carried through air, but directly into their minds. A voice older than language itself. You remember. The effect was immediate. Several mages screamed, clutching their heads as if something inside them had cracked. Others fell to their knees, gasping, unable to bear the weight of that voice. The high priest staggered, one hand gripping his staff. Spells do not speak, he rasped. Spells do not think. Aaron didn't react with fear. He didn't collapse. He didn't scream. He simply listened. I didn't, Aaron said quietly. Not at first. The flame pulsed, its shape shifting, elongating, almost taking on a form that resembled something human, but unfinished. Incomplete, like a memory trying to rebuild itself. You were not meant to forget. A cold silence followed, the kind that creeps into your bones. Kill him. The shout broke the tension like shattered glass. One of the elder mages stepped forward, his hands already glowing with arcane energy. This is forbidden. Whatever this is, it's corrupting the spell. Lightning surged from his palm. It never reached Aaron. The flame moved. Not violently, not angrily, but with absolute certainty. The lightning vanished midair, erased. as if it had never existed. The mage froze. His hands trembled. That's not possible. Another mage tried. Then another. Spells of fire, frost, force. Each one cast in desperation, in fear, in denial. Each one vanished the same way. Silently. Effortlessly. It's protecting him, someone whispered. The realization spread like poison through the chamber. Not controlling. Not resisting. Protecting. Aaron looked up at the flame. His expression no longer confused, but searching. "What are you?" he asked. The flame dimmed slightly, as if considering the question. For a moment, there was no answer. Then, "I am what your kind made, before the world forgot your name." The ground trembled. Deep, violent, ancient. The walls of the ruin began to glow. The carvings, those indecipherable, impossible symbols, lit up one by one. And then, they changed. The mages gasped. The shapes twisted, reforming, rearranging themselves into patterns no one had ever seen before. Or rather, no one except Aaron. He stepped forward slowly, eyes locked on the glowing walls. "What is happening?" the high priest demanded, though his voice betrayed his uncertainty. Aaron didn't answer immediately. He was reading, understanding. "These aren't spells," he said finally. "They're words." "That's impossible," a scholar snapped. "Those markings predate written language itself." Aaron shook his head. "No, they predate your language." The room fell silent again. Aaron reached out, his fingers brushing against the glowing stone. The moment he touched it, the light surged. A pulse of energy exploded outward, not destructive, revealing. Images flooded the chamber. Not illusions, not magic, memories. Cities rose around them, vast, radiant, impossible. Structures of light and stone stretching into the sky, connected by streams of energy that flowed like rivers. And everywhere, humans, not weak, not ordinary, but powerful beyond comprehension. They shaped reality with a thought, bent magic like it was nothing more than air. Spoke, and the world listened. The mages fell to their knees. "This," one whispered, "this can't be real." Aaron walked through the vision slowly, his eyes wide, not with fear, but recognition. "I've seen this before," he murmured. "In dreams, fragments." The flame hovered beside him, no longer just a presence, now a guide. "You're not a spell," Aaron said. The flame pulsed. "No, you're something else." A pause. Then, "I was their voice." The vision darkened, the cities flickered, and something else began to emerge. War. Aaron's expression hardened. "What happened to them?" he asked quietly. The flame dimmed, as if the answer carried weight even it did not wish to bear. "They were erased." The word echoed, heavy, final. The vision shattered, the ruins returned, and nothing would ever be the same again. The silence that followed felt heavier than the flame itself. No one argued now. No one denied what they had seen, because the images still lingered behind their eyes. Cities of impossible light, humans who shaped reality like it was nothing more than clay. And the war that followed. "They were lying," one of the scholars whispered, his voice hollow. "All of it history, magic, the origins." "Enough," a mage snapped, though his tone lacked conviction. "Visions can be manipulated. That thing," he pointed at the flame, "it could be showing us anything." Aaron turned slowly. "If it wanted to lie," he said quietly, "it wouldn't need to show us anything at all." No one answered, because deep down they felt it too. The truth. The ancient carvings along the walls still glowed, their shapes now stable, no longer shifting, no longer unreadable. Words. A language no mage knew. But Aaron did. He stepped closer, running his fingers along the stone. "They weren't just powerful," he murmured. "They were different." The high priest approached carefully, as if the ground itself might betray him. "Different how?" Aaron hesitated, as if the answer wasn't simple, as if it carried something dangerous. "They didn't use magic," he said. "They understood it." A ripple of confusion spread through the chamber. "That makes no sense," a mage said. "Magic is a force, a resource. It must be controlled." Aaron shook his head. "No, you control something you don't fully understand." He looked back at the glowing walls. They didn't control it because they didn't have to. The flame pulsed beside him, soft, agreeing. They spoke to it. Aaron continued, and it answered. The high priest's grip tightened on his staff. Magic doesn't think. Aaron glanced at the flame, then back at him. Are you sure? The question lingered, unanswered. A sudden rumble shook the ruins, stronger than before. Dust fell from the ceiling as the ground cracked beneath their feet. What now? Someone shouted. The carvings flared brighter, blinding, and once again, the world changed. This time, the vision was darker, broken. The shining cities were gone, replaced by ruins, burning skies, falling towers, and other races. Tall figures cloaked in light, massive beings carved from stone and thunder, creatures of shadow that moved like living voids. They feared them, Aaron whispered. The vision sharpened. Humans stood at the center of it all, not as conquerors, but as something worse. Unknown, unpredictable, uncontrollable. They couldn't be ruled, Aaron said, his voice low. They couldn't be contained. A figure stepped forward in the vision. Not human, not entirely. Something older, something divine. The gods, the high priest breathed. The being raised a hand, and the world itself seemed to bend. They made a choice, Aaron said. The vision fractured, splitting into countless pieces, each one showing a different moment, a different act. Books burning, languages erased, monuments destroyed, memories rewritten, and finally, chains, not physical, not visible, but real. They didn't just defeat humans, Aaron said, his voice tightening. They erased them. The flame dimmed, as if mourning. They took our history, Aaron continued, our knowledge, our connection. The vision collapsed. The ruins returned, but the air felt different now. Heavier, charged. No, one of the mages whispered, shaking his head violently. No, this is madness. Humans are the weakest race. Everyone knows that. Aaron turned to him. Do we? The question hit harder than any spell. If we were always weak, Aaron said slowly, then why go to all this effort to erase us? No one had an answer. The flame rose higher, its presence expanding, filling the chamber with a pressure that made it hard to breathe. The ancient sigils around the circle began to react again, not violently, but responding. To him, the high priest realized. They're reacting to him. Aaron looked down at his hands, at the faint glow now forming beneath his skin. Not like magic, something deeper. I think, he said, his voice uncertain for the first time. We were never meant to lose it. The flame pulsed, stronger, and then it moved, not toward Aaron, but around him, slowly circling, like a guardian, like something that had finally found what it had been searching for. You said you were their voice, Aaron said. So why me? The flame paused, hovering in front of him. For a moment, there was no answer. Then, because you listened. The ground shook violently, far stronger than before. A deep crack split through the center of the ruin. Light poured out from below, blinding. What is that? Someone shouted. The high priest's face went pale. Not what? He whispered. Who? Aaron looked up. The sky above the ruins tore open, not like a storm, not like magic, like something was breaking through from the other side. A voice echoed, not in their minds, not in the air, but everywhere. The forbidden truth has been uncovered. The flame flared violently, for the first time. Not calm, not curious, angry. The voice continued, cold, absolute. The anomaly must be corrected. The mages fell to their knees. Some screamed, some prayed. The gods, the high priest whispered. Aaron didn't move. He just stared at the sky. And for the first time, he felt something stir inside him. Not fear, recognition. The sky did not open like a storm. It broke. A jagged tear stretched across the heavens, spilling blinding light into the ruined valley. Not sunlight, not magic. Something purer, something colder. Every mage in the chamber collapsed. Not from injury, from pressure. An overwhelming force pressed down on their minds, their bodies, their very existence, as if the world itself was reminding them of their place. Don't look, one of them cried, burying his face into the stone. It's divine presence. Your mind will shatter. The high priest fell to one knee, his staff cracking against the ground as he struggled to remain conscious. This is judgment, he whispered. Only one person remained standing. Aaron. He stood at the center of the ancient circle, the nameless flame swirling around him like a living shield. The pressure that crushed everyone else parted around him, avoided him. Above, something moved within the tear in the sky. Not a body, not a shape, but a presence so vast it defied form. Then the voice returned. The error persists. The words were not loud, yet they echoed across the world. Mountains trembled, seas stirred. Every living thing, from the smallest insect to the most powerful archmage, felt it. The human anomaly has awakened. The flame flared violently. Its calm, curious presence was gone. Now it burned like a storm barely contained. Aaron didn't flinch. He stared into the light. "You erased us," he said. A pause. The voice answered. "We corrected what should not have existed." The ground beneath the ruins cracked further, ancient stone splitting apart as buried power surged upward. The sigils around Aaron ignited, not in the chaotic way they had before, but in perfect synchronization, as if they were responding to him. The high priest rasped again, barely able to lift his head. "It's all reacting to him." Aaron's hands trembled, not from fear, from something else. A faint glow spread beneath his skin, not like magic, not like anything the mages had ever seen. It fell deeper, older. "You were afraid," Aaron said, his voice steady. The light above flickered, just for a moment. "They weren't weak," he continued. "They were different." The presence shifted, subtly. They were unstable. The flame surged upward, rising behind Aaron like a massive, living shadow of fire. The heat didn't burn him. It answered him. "No," Aaron said. "They were free." The word hung in the air like a challenge. For the first time, the voice did not respond immediately. Below, the mages watched in stunned silence. The human they had dismissed, the one they had nearly executed, was standing against something even they feared to name. "You rewrote everything," Aaron said. "Our history, our place in the world." His eyes burned now, not with flame, but with something sharper, understanding. "You made us forget who we were." The tear in the sky widened. Light poured through it in blinding waves. Memory is irrelevant. The pressure increased. The ruins began to crumble. Stone collapsed. Ancient carvings shattered. Order must be maintained. The flame roared, not in fear, in defiance. It expanded outward, forming a barrier around Aaron, pushing back against the divine pressure, holding the collapsing world together by sheer force. The high priest's eyes widened. "It's resisting." "That's impossible," a mage whispered. "Nothing resists the gods." But it was happening. Aaron stepped forward. One step, then another. Each step sent a pulse through the ground, through the flame, through the very air itself. "You called us an error," Aaron said. The glow beneath his skin intensified. The sigils around him began to shift again. But this time, they didn't just react. They obeyed. "But if we were just a mistake?" He looked up at the tear in the sky. "Then why are you still afraid of us?" The world went still. For a fraction of a second, the pressure lifted. And in that silence, something changed. The flame stilled behind him. No longer wild. No longer defensive. Focused. The voice returned. But this time, there was something new in it. Not anger. Not authority. Hesitation. "You do not understand what you are." Aaron closed his eyes. And for a moment, everything faded. The ruins, the mages, the sky, all of it disappeared into darkness. And in that darkness, something stirred, not outside him, inside. Fragments of memory, broken, scattered, ancient, voices, not one, many, human voices. We don't control it. We listen, we speak, and it answers. Aaron's breath caught, his eyes snapped open. And this time, they glowed, not with fire, with something far older than flame. The flame behind him responded instantly. It rose higher, sharper, stronger, not like a servant, like a reflection. "I think," Aaron said slowly, his voice no longer uncertain. "I'm starting to remember." The world held its breath. The sky remained torn open, a wound in reality spilling cold, blinding light across the ruins. The presence beyond it, vast, unknowable, watched in silence. But something had changed. Aaron stood at the center of the shattered circle, unmoving, unafraid. The glow in his eyes had deepened. Not brighter, deeper, like looking into something without a beginning or an end. Around him, the nameless flame no longer raged. It waited. The mages could feel it. The shift, the balance of power, something ancient, something buried, had tilted. "You do not understand," the voice from the sky repeated, but it no longer carried the same certainty. Aaron took a slow breath. And then, he spoke. "I understand enough." The ground beneath him responded. The broken sigils began to rise again, not as fragments, but whole, reformed, perfect. But they weren't the same symbols anymore. They were simpler, clearer, language, human. The high priest stared in disbelief. "No," he whispered. "That's not possible, those runes." "They were never runes," Aaron said softly. "They were words." The flame pulsed, agreeing. "They hid it," Aaron continued, looking up at the sky. "Not just from us. From everyone." The presence above flickered. Silence. The command hit like a wave. The ruins cracked. The air shattered. But Aaron didn't stop. "You erased our history," he said. "You buried our knowledge. You made the world forget what humans were." The glow beneath his skin spread, up his arms, across his chest, into the air itself. The space around him began to distort. "But you missed something." The flame rose behind him. Not like a weapon, not like a shield, like a crown. The voice above sharpened. "You are an echo, nothing more." Aaron smiled faintly. "No," he said. And then, he whispered again. Not the same word, a different one. The moment it left his lips, everything stopped. The light from the sky froze. The falling debris hung motionless in the air. The wind vanished. Time itself seemed to hesitate. The mages couldn't move, couldn't think, could barely breathe, because for the first time, they understood. That word was not magic. It was truth. The flame exploded upward, not in destruction, in revelation. It expanded beyond the ruins, beyond the valley, beyond the sky itself, its presence stretching across the world like a second dawn. And everywhere it touched, magic changed. Not violently, not chaotically. It remembered. Across distant lands, spells faltered. Ancient enchantments flickered. Long-forgotten ruins awakened, because something buried deep within magic itself had been called back. The truth. The voice from the sky broke. For the first time. Not calm. Not absolute. Angry. "You cannot restore what was erased." Aaron looked up. His eyes burned, not with fire, but with something far older. "Then stop me." Silence. The terror in the sky trembled. The presence beyond it shifted. But it did not strike. It hesitated. The high priest's breath caught. "They're afraid." Aaron stepped forward. The flame moved with him. Not following. Not leading. Walking beside him. "You called us a mistake," Aaron said. "But we were never your creation." The glow around him intensified. The air bent. The world itself seemed to lean closer. "We were the ones who gave this world its voice." The flame pulsed once, stronger than ever before. "And now," Aaron said, his voice calm final, "we've taken it back." The tear in the sky began to close. Slowly, reluctantly. The presence beyond it retreated. Not defeated, but unwilling to continue. The light faded. The pressure vanished. The sky healed. And just like that, the gods were gone. The ruins fell silent. The mages remained frozen where they stood, staring at the human who had just faced something beyond comprehension, and lived. Aaron exhaled slowly. The glow around him dimmed. The flame softened. For a moment, everything was still. Then the high priest dropped to his knees. Not in fear, in understanding. "What are you?" he whispered. Aaron looked at his hands, at the faint light still lingering beneath his skin, at the flame, now calm beside him. Then he looked up. "I'm human." The words were simple, but this time, they meant something else entirely, because across the world, magic itself had begun to remember that name.